And hello, it's time for the Barry Foster Show. Not in the Ridge Floor studios, but indeed in the Vietnam Veterans Hall for the Highlands Tea Party for a Tuesday night. This is the second time we tried this live. The first time we tried it live, John got sick. I told him he couldn't get sick tonight, okay? I think he's sick of doing it, okay?
No, I forgot to put my makeup on that.
Many of you have listened to us on WWTK for years. We began with the three Caballeros. There was Lester Lobb, Dale Flug, and John Larsen, and myself. The three boys, Les, Dale, and John, had been doing a show on another radio station. And at a tea party, I said, if you ever get tired of doing that, come out and be with me. And Les said, are you serious? I said, absolutely. I'm absolutely serious. So they had apparently just had a falling out with the station manager at the other station. So they came and started being on with me. And the rest is history. Les, sadly, is no longer with us. Dale is not in good health. John is the last of the Mohicans, okay? He's
not a good omen.
Yeah. he's
Somehow I feel pressured.
He's still with us, and that's where it started. And I left in May of 2024. I left WWOJ and the Highlands Radio Group. And when I left, after a while, people started saying, Barry, are you going to come back? Are you going to come back? You need to start a podcast. And I didn't really want to start a podcast. And I had several friends of mine give me, they exhorted me, they gave me encouragement to come. And so over the course of the last 4 months, we've put this together. And it has been, as Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead would say, it's been a long, strange trip. Okay? And so now I have 73 episodes up tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, will be the second of John and my episodes. And then on Thursday will be Tom Trento. And all things being equal, I think this may go up on Friday. We have about 36 people in the office tonight in the building. So what I'll ask you is if you have a question, Javita's going to run the mics for you. And just give your first name and where you're from, and that way we can answer you in a good way. So that's kind of how it came together. I have a Barry Foster Show Facebook page, and I just put up a Barry Foster Show group on Facebook if you want to join that, because then you'll have a chance to kind of talk about things. If you have stuff you would like us to address, guests you'd like us to have on, put them in the comments below on the Facebook page, and we'll try to get to that. The more comments we get, the better. Then YouTube thinks that, hey, this guy's getting a lot of interaction, and they share it around a little bit more. So that's kind of how it got to be where we are now. And so now it's John and myself and all of you guys. Okay. The one thing I just did find out, John, is that Donald Trump has negotiated a Russian ceasefire. He gave Putin California. So it was a good deal for everybody.
Good choice.
Good choice for everybody. But one of the things we talk a lot about national stuff, but there is some local stuff in the offing that you need to know about. And John, you want to tell a little bit about the fire assessment? And,
there was an article, for those who get the newspaper, there was an article in the paper yesterday, I believe it was, about the county fire assessment, which is going up dramatically in some cases for a lot of people. And it's unfortunate, but we knew when they switched from an all-volunteer fire department, which I knew they had issues continuing to get volunteer firemen. That was one of the problems. They just couldn't continue. Younger people weren't joining and older people were retiring. So they had to make a choice, either have no fire protection or hire full-time firemen, which is what they've started to do. Well, when you do that, one of the first things they did was, of course, to unionize the firefighters. So when that happens, then, of course, the county has to start negotiating contracts, which means you're going to negotiate increases in pay, increases in expenditure, and all that, which means, like this year, going to be an increase in the fire assessment. And I'll just read off a couple numbers. Now, some of this may not, impact everybody, but anyhow, churches, meanwhile, I'm going to read this. Meanwhile, the commissioners had already reduced the exempt church rate from about 9 cents a square foot to 7.5 a square foot. They reduced the regular church rate from 33 cents to 7.5 cents per square foot. Residential property owners will pay 6.5 cents a square foot, Industrial warehouses will pay 3.6. Institutional rate will go from 27 to 33. Owners of vacant land, this one kind of confused me. Vacant land is charged 53 cents a square foot. So if you have an open field, you're going to pay 53 cents a square foot for that fire assessment, unlike somebody who has a house is going to pay like 7.5 cents. So it just seems kind of odd that vacant land would be that way, but that's the way they ended up with it. And agricultural land is exempt. So if you're a farmer, you have 25 acres of farmland, you don't pay any fire assessment on that. So it is kind of interesting, but I just also took a look at this fellow, that Matt Bradley, who's Balmoral Assisted Living, which is down in Lake Placid. And he was telling the commissioners, here was his frustration. In 2023, they had to pay $6,000 fire assessment. In 2024, they paid $21,000 fire assessment. 25, 26 are going to pay $60,000. So in 2 years, their fire assessment has gone from $6,000 to $60,000.
And you know who's going to pay that? The residents.
Oh yeah,
that's going to go. That's going to their rents are going to be going up.
Yep. So that's just a little bit of what the county's doing, which is taking money from the taxpayers, and it looks like it's not going to get a whole lot better, at least on the fire assessment. I think we can see some of that, maybe not this rate every year, but you're going to continue to see it go up just because of the added cost they've got now with full-time firemen and the equipment and everything.
The unimproved land, that can't be 53 cents a square foot. That's got to be like 5.3 cents. That's got to be a misprint, because 53 cents a square foot, if you own an acre of ground, that's quite a chunk of change.
That's quite a chunk of change.
And the thing is, I understand that they have to call the fire department out if there's a brush fire somewhere. Okay, they got to call them out. But when all is said and done, there's not much damage there. A few squirrels lose their house. Okay, but you know, there's not that much in terms of damage. So I get it. I'd like to see that again. But I knew this was coming when they decided that they were going to make a countywide fire department. And some of this is going to be to pay for more than just the firefighters. They've got a major fire station planned to go out by the Sebring International Raceway. They have big plans to spend our money on this. And so it continues to go up. One thing I think that when they make the presentations, they pad the figures a little bit. For instance, if there's a fire, the fire truck shows up. If there's a car crash, the fire truck shows up. If you have a heart attack in your house, the fire truck shows up. A lot of times when the fire truck shows up, there is no fire. I mean, there's a reason for them to be there. You know, they have to hose down gasoline and help clean up the area. They use the fire trucks to block an accident scene so cars have to go around. I understand that they have to show up, but I also understand that you pay the firefighter the same amount of money, whether he is in full bunker gear putting wet stuff on the red stuff, or whether he's sitting back at the station playing checkers. I mean, he doesn't get paid any more money for going out and fighting a fire. All right. And how many actual fires do we have over the course of the year? I think that's a number we need to look at, not just how many times are they called out, because they get called out, you know, to be honest with you, they called out for fender benders. When you call up and you say, my husband's fallen and he can't get up, there's three safety services to show up: the firefighters, EMS, and the law enforcement. Whether it's in the city, it's the police; outside the city, it's the sheriff's office. All three of them will show up. Sometimes some of them can help and some of them can't. Let's say that let's say there's a police car going down your street when the call comes in, and he can pull right over. He can come in and knock on your door and help and rather give you some comfort that there's somebody there, but he can't do anything until the firefighters show up. And then the firefighters show up with their medical bags and stuff. There's some things they can do and some things they can't. They have to wait for the EMT to show up with the gurney and to haul you off to whichever hospital you want to go to. So I understand that they show up. I'm not at all sure that the fire assessment does anything more than provide them with um, the kind of money they need to do the things they want to do. And Highlands County is a pretty spread out area. I mean, we have three small municipalities: Avon Park, Sebring Lake Placid. Anything east of Sebring that has a cow on it, it's called Loretta. Okay. Then you've got Spring Lake, you've got the Sun Lake Improvement District. But generally, Highlands County is pretty well spread out. So it does take them a while to get there. And they are looking at buying more emergency equipment, and it ain't cheap. I think the last fire truck came in at $1 million. Is that right? It came in at $1 million, and that's because you don't go down to Honest Ed's used fire truck store and pick you up a fire truck. There's a place just north and east of Orlando called E1, and you go to E1 and you tell them what kind of fire truck do you want. So they pull the chassis out, and then they start building the fire truck. And this is the cab, this is the back, this is where you're going to put the hose, what kind of units do you want, and they custom build you a fire truck, or they custom build you an ambulance in much the same way. It's not like you can just go and when Highlands County Sheriff Paul Blackman orders police cruisers, and some of you have been driving on 27 south of Sebring and have seen all those police cruisers from St. Pete parked there. I would tell you that I don't think they're significantly different. I mean, a law enforcement car is pretty much a law enforcement car. They may a detective, a crime scene investigator, some of the specialty units may have something a little bit different. But generally, a patrol car is a patrol car. It's a little bit different. And they have what they call state bids. And the state bid goes in, and you piggyback on that bid so you get it for the best price. Emergency vehicles are much different. And, well, we need the money because this stuff is costing more. And when you protest to the Highlands County Commission that, yeah, we understand that because we go to the grocery mart. And guess what? Everything's costing more. And we get I won't give you numbers, but I will tell you that I got a bit of sticker shock. Does everybody have Florida Power or Duke Energy? Halfway through, they send you a little thing saying, at this rate, you're going to be in the poorhouse the next time you get a check. And we've been trying to be good stewards of electricity. And they said if we're on our current trajectory, will be the highest electric bill we've ever had. Okay, how does that happen? I don't know, except they've raised the rates again. Because to be honest with you, Duke Energy, what's the number one cost center for any business is their people, and they're paying their people more. And it's one of the things that we're going to see, and I don't know how it's going to play out, but we're seeing this with the Trump tariffs, because stuff that we used to get very inexpensively from other countries that we didn't tariff is going up. And I've had people say, well, who pays that, don't you? We as consumers pay that. And my answer is this. Yes, you buy something made in China, England, Israel, wherever. This offsets the $15 minimum wage we now have to pay thanks to Bernie Sanders. So do the tariffs mean we have to pay more? Yes. And why? Is because American goods cost more. And what we're hoping, and what Donald Trump is hoping, is that it will drive more local businesses to begin, so you don't have to pay that tariff. When we just had in our church a gentleman who is a missionary to the gypsies. They're known as the Roma, R-O-M-A, the Roma people, and he does service over there. And he says when he buys a pillow in Europe, it costs him $11. When he buys a pillow in America, it's $4. But the shipping and getting it over there makes it more expensive. And it's the same way it's in reverse here. So for us to begin to lower prices, we have to begin to look at having more American goods. And I would urge you all to look for that American-made label. In fact, I think, John, we're gonna be talking about some American companies out here at the Sebring Airport, aren't we?
Hopefully, yes. Sent out, there's approximately 12 businesses out at the airport industrial park. And I sent an email to each one of the people that are the head of those companies to see if we could get them to come and speak here about their specific business. Because they're out there, you don't see them very often, but yet there's a lot of activity out at the airport, a lot. So hopefully we can get some of those business owners here to talk to us about what they do, why they do it, how's their business, what are their issues, what kind of problems do they have, and so on. So one other thing about the fire assessment, the county plans on taking in $11 million this coming year from the fire assessment fees. So whether that 11 million is a good number or not, whether they need 11 million, but that's what they're planning on taking in with the fire assessment numbers that they gave. So that's the other thing that we're going to have to look forward to. You speaking about Duke Energy, my Duke Energy bill, I got the letter this month, went up 16%. Yeah. So, and you know, businesses, it's very ironic because business, well, say, look, hell, it's only like 38 cents. So don't worry about that. Well, then this guy's getting 27 cents. That guy's getting 39 cents. So all of a sudden your pennies are now adding up to dollars. Yeah. And so they say, well, you're on fixed income. Yeah, I know. That's the problem. You're on fixed income. But you only have so many dollars to spend, and consequently, everybody keeps raising their price. And I understand there's some reasons for it, but the problem is, like Barry said, in the end, it's the people that take it. I mean, the people get hit with it. The businesses will always tack on the cost, the increased cost, whether it's tariff money, whether it's taxes, whether it's increased labor. They're always going to tack it onto their price. They're not going to eat it. They're going to continue to make their profit. And so one thing I wish, and I was waiting for it, I don't think he's had one yet. I'd like to see the president sit down with food owners, farmers, and talk about the cost of food. I mean, when you go into the grocery store today, and I do every week, like everybody, and you look at a piece of beef and you think, boy, I'd like to buy that steak, and you look at the price, $27 per steak. I mean, it's just unbelievable the cost of stuff today compared to what it was a few years ago, and so on. And there are a lot of reasons for it, but somehow we've got to try and get the prices of things down. It looks like fuel is coming down a little bit. Gas is coming down here in Highlands County. It's unbelievable. It fluctuates. One week it's $3.19, then at the end of the week it's down to $2.99 or $2.89 or whatever. Next week, guess what happens? It goes right back up again. It's like a yo-yo string. You can't ever count on it. What you paid last Friday, you're going to pay something different this Tuesday. And Tuesday is usually always the day in Highlands County when they change the prices. I don't know why. It's kind of magical, but they seem to do it always on Tuesday, and everybody seems to go up or down the same price.
Yeah, well, by the way, they just jumped up again to $3.19, John.
Yep.
Although they just, well, the lowest that I've seen in Highlands County is $2.89, which is up in Avon Park. But that will be going up. It jumps by 30 cents, and like John says, it's like a slow deflation. It comes down little by little by little, and then it gets down, and then it jumps right back up again. And I don't know what the game is there. I guess that 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Well, we're lucky in one aspect. Pennsylvania, where I was at earlier this summer, has the highest state gas tax in the country. They're at 57 cents a gallon. So ours down here is, I think, 23 cents when you add the state and local taxes in. It's 23 in that ballpark. So 57. California's the next. They're about 54 cents a gallon, state sales tax for gas. That's why they're saying in California, because the governor out there decided to shut down 2 of the refineries out of the 4 they have, their gas is very easily going to possibly go to $8 a gallon out there, and so on. So it's just insanity, no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, John.
And your name is?
I apologize. I'm Javita from Sebring, Florida.
And Javita, what's your question today?
My question is, I'm getting some YouTube feeds about Social Security and the possibility of it going up. Some numbers are like 2,500, some numbers 50-something hundred. Any any solid information has anyone received? Because it seems like I'm getting these scamish kind of feeds.
I have not heard this. I do know this, that through the efforts of Doge and the efforts of Donald Trump, a lot of people who were not eligible for Social Security are not going to be collecting it because they no longer will be in the country. So as the people who were, we understand, and I do not have the numbers, but there was a very large number of people who came in the country illegally and were almost immediately given Social Security numbers, and then became eligible for Social Security. The Trump administration is trying to ferret that out and to begin to make it more fair for the people who put in their whole lives. If I can digress for a second, there's a theory called the Cloward-Piven theory. And the Cloward-Piven theory is that you destroy things by overwhelming the system, by having more people than you have resources to take care of them. And if you can flood the system, then it has to shut down, it has to crash. It's like putting 10 tons of fertilizer in a 5-ton truck. Okay? And I believe that that's what they were trying to do over the past 4 years by allowing so many illegals to come in the country, putting them up in 5-star hotels, giving them all kinds of benefits, and trying to crash the system. Fortunately for us, America is still too strong for that to happen. So, and we've heard Donald Trump say that because of the tariffs, while he was thinking about the possibility of giving rebates to the citizens, I would personally hope that he just pay down the national debt. But I think that there may be some talk about better Social Security benefits because there will be more money for the people that are legally on it. I have not heard anything about that.
Thank
Answer
you.
your question.
Thank you very much.
I hope it's
not
true.
anything official.
Not anything official.
Not
No.
at this point. No, both he and Elon Musk floated that idea of giving a rebate to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Elon brought it up. Trump talked about it a few times, but whether it happens or not, I don't know. I think he's waiting maybe to see if all of the countries are going to come across with their tariff increases or decreases and so on, so that we're even up and whatnot. We'll see. India's a big one that hasn't settled yet. China is still in the works on a permanent basis, so we'll see. They've got more work to do, obviously.
There's still negotiations. Donald Trump is trying to make a deal. Some of them may just decide to try to outwait. Mm-hmm. They know that in 3 years he's going to be gone, and they're going to pray that the next guy will be easier. So, I don't know the answer to that question.
No, I don't think we do either. But, right now he gave a nod last week to his vice president.
Yeah,
okay, and whatnot, saying that he appears to be the front runner. But he did say at the very end, he said, "Now wait a minute," he said, "you have to add Marco Rubio in there also." So I think he's trying to play both sides of the fence.
Some of us might have to add.
You don't want to make anybody totally upset at this point. You got another 3.5 years to go. So yes, but speaking of jumping off on a different subject, which I usually try to do.
Yeah,
anyhow.
please do.
Something came out this week which really kind of surprised me, although I always had some concerns about him at the end of his first thing, and that was Bill Barr, his AG, and so on. It turned out, according to this person, this female, she's a Project Veritas former journalist, Patricia Lelis, okay? She said that she was part of conversations when she worked at a place called Howard Stirk Holdings, and that Trump's former AG devised legal strategies to target Trump supporters and block his political comeback, mm-hmm. which I always kind of thought prior to that he was a straight up guy, but obviously now there seems to be some cloud around him and so on. So maybe that's the reason that when he and Trump parted ways, that Trump didn't ever talk about having him come back again.
The thing I can't figure out is are these people loyal and then they get to them afterwards, or have they been plants all along to then go in and now it's your job to go in and torpedo something? That there have been people who have been told you won't do this or you will do this, and it's the carrot and the stick. If you want to do it, then we can make things. Well, there's some committee chairmanships, John. There's a lot of things that will get you a lot of extra money, and Your kid's just graduating from college, and boy, there's this in the megalo business place where they can get a really good job, and you say, well, no, I'm not going to do that, and all of a sudden you're going to be primaried and thrown out and fired from your job. So I mean, uh, there's big money here, and there's big stakes.
Unfortunately, all we have to do is look at Nancy Pelosi and we can see the big money in D.C.
Oh man,
She's the queen of trades, okay, the queen of trades. And if you listen to some of the stockbrokers that are big time guys in this, do it for a living and done it for a long time and successful, they will tell you that nobody has beaten Nancy Pelosi's stock return. Nobody. I mean, she is far and away with her insider trading information, which she says no, but her and her husband make strange bedfellow pillows, okay, to talk about how you're going to buy and sell, because most of the stock trades that she makes are done by her husband with the knowledge of what she knows. Okay, so yes.
Well, there are at least three guys that pop up on my social media feed that have program that if you want to invest, you invest in this program, and the program tracks what Nancy Pelosi does and buys those same stocks and sells those same stocks. And because it is the internet, it moves. You don't have to call anybody. You don't have to talk to a human. This is done all through the internet at lightning speed. Mm-hmm. So you're incrementally behind her. You don't make as much, but you are on the same track as she is. And they said that there's other legislators. She's not the only one.
Oh no.
There's other legislators that they do the same thing with. And they said that they had their what some of the guys know ROI, your return on investment. Your ROI is quite high if you want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, where we make 5 or 6 or 7%, feel lucky. She's making 25 and 35%.
It's astonishing.
That's right, amazing. She's a very wise woman for her age.
She's been around a while. She's
yes.
Yeah. Oh no, she didn't want to get it.
Did you have a question, Javita? I thought you were.
I did have another. I could take another bite. Anybody have a question?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Drew.
The rollback, I'm bringing you back locally.
Mm-hmm.
The rollback, agenda or bill. Thank you. Did it ever get finalized?
No.
Okay.
For the folks who don't know, there is every year when the county, the cities pass a tax, there's this thing called the rollback rate, which is the rate of taxation that it would take to produce the same amount of money as it was produced the previous year. And it's usually a very low rate. And what the county commission has done, and when I first got here in '86, it was like clockwork, and it worked pretty well. They would set the millage high because they can bring it down as much as they want, but to make it go up, they have to have a referendum. Okay, so they set it high, and then they bring it down. Well, about the turn of the century, in the 2000s, they'd set it high, it would stay there, or it might come down just a little bit. And we've had this discussion with Kevin Roberts where they reduced the millage, but the property valuation had gone up so much, what you pay, with the bottom line of your taxes was still higher, even though they had lowered the millage rate. And so there was a move by the Republicans called #RollbackNow. And we suggested this to a couple of commissioners, and as they would say in politics, there was no appetite for that. We're going to be seeing, but I understand, I've heard a discussion that because of the reduction in property values this year, our taxable valuation may be going down. That they believe that the rush from the blue states to the red states has abated, that the people who want to come, trying to get into Florida, trying to get here, trying to find a place, has slowed, so that now it's not a seller's market anymore, maybe a buyer's market. I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't either. I just wonder, with everything that's going on with Canada, and we get a lot of snowbirds here from Canada, I just wonder if that's going to have an impact on housing sales, housing rentals, and so on in the state of Florida, because many people come here from Canada every year.
Yes, and I don't know we should probably, you know, one thing we might do, and we know a couple of people, is to ask a realtor or someone who's with MLS, multiple listing services, to talk about the housing inventory in Highlands County, to know what that whole situation is. You know, to find out how many. I used to have a guy that would come in on a paid basis and talk about how you had X number of homes, and if you had 6 months of inventory, that meant that it was a buyer's market. But if you had less than 6 months of inventory, it was a seller's market. I may have that backwards. I'm not a realtor. But yeah, I'd like to have, there's several people I'd like to have in, and John has not had luck, so I am going to call some people who I think may be able to do us some good, because there's some county people I would like to come in. One is I would like the head of road and bridge to come in. John was talking a little bit about earlier about gas taxes. In Florida, gas taxes are designated funds. What you pay at the pump goes into building and maintaining roads. So it's rather a user fee. You use gas, you drive on the roads, the money that you pay for the gas goes into maintaining the roads. I can live with that. A small percentage goes into boat docks and weeding lakes, because guys who have motorboats say, hey, we buy gas too. And so a small percentage of that goes to the lakes, not very much at all. But I would like to know what the situation is in Highlands County, because the list of roads always outstrips the money, always outstrips the money. And I'd like to know from them also what, in terms of state gas tax that we're paying, where does that money go? I'd like to know, because Highlands County, part of our taxes go to maintaining Highway 27, which is a federal highway maintained by the state. So I'd like to, I'd like to find out that's one. I'm also going to ask for the guy who's in charge of the landfill to come and tell us everything we wanted to know. We're afraid to ask about what's going on with landfill, because we're going to be getting a new garbage collection service. And for the last decade, we've had a real sweetheart deal here. And they begged to be let out. And the county commission said, we're thinking no on that. You signed this. They said, well, the situation's changed. They go, well, to be honest, it's not our problem, okay? So we're going to let these people have the best deal. I think that when the new deal comes in, they're going to say, we're going to make up for lost time here. So you better hold on to your back pocket, guys, because you're going to see some zeros coming your way.
Yeah, there's a new company that took over.
Of course there is.
About 6 months ago, I think it was. So waste management's long gone, and that contract is gone. So yeah, like fire assessment, like property taxes, like everything else, we're going to see a hit on our garbage collection.
I think so. Yeah.
Either that or a reduction in service, one or the other.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much more they can cut the service. They cut it from twice a week to once a week.
They used to pick up twice a week.
Yeah.
And then they cut it back to one.
Now they're down to once.
Eliminated recycling. That was another thing they did to try and make it profitable, I guess, for them. But
to be honest, there is no recycling market. I wish there was a recycling market, but there's just not.
They do pick it up if you want to take it to one of the 3 locations. They've got one in each one of the towns that you can get rid of your recycled stuff at this point.
I would like to know, like, if I put, we don't use 2-liter bottles, but if I put my 2-liter bottles in the plastic bin, what happens to them after that? Where do they go? What do they do? If I put my paper in the paper bin, if I put my cardboard in the cardboard bin, and I put my tin cans in the tin can, where do they go and what happens? The only thing that I understand, the only thing that even pays for itself is the tin cans. That's as far as I know, that's all that pays for itself. And the third one, that I would like to have come over, I'd like to discuss is the Economic Development Commission. And why are they a county department? I just saw the first part of a presentation, and I will give this guy honorable mention for the amount of jargon that he used in his presentation. I've heard worse, but he was pretty good. So I want to have them come in and explain to me why the The EDC, the IDA EDC is not a private sector. And we have a question. Yes, ma'am.
Sandra from Sebring.
Yes, Sandra.
The recycling center is going to be reopening on September 1st.
Mhm.
And if anybody's ever driven by the recycling center, I worked there I was employed by the landfill, and then I went to the recycling center, which is part of the landfill, in December of 2010. And when I went there in 2010, there were bales and bales and bales and bales of plastic. And they were still sitting there when I went back to the landfill when they closed the recycling center. And my husband and I just went by there the other day, and all the bales are gone. But it hasn't been that long ago that they got rid of them, and I don't know where they went or who took them. But I'm sure they all fell apart because they'd been sitting there for over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
About 15 years. But then also, could I talk about something else?
Absolutely.
Okay. So in the paper, I don't know, in the last few days, there was an article about animals. And for litters of dogs, this isn't in black and white yet, but they were talking about limiting 2 litters a year if you're breeding dogs or whatever. I would like to see something started at the local level where there is a list that would eventually become national in every state, that if you have been charged and convicted of animal cruelty, your name goes on that list. And when somebody goes to adopt a dog, whoever they're adopting the dog from has to check that list. And if your name is on that list, you will never, ever again have a dog, cat, or whatever animal it may be.
Absolutely.
Because there's just too much cruelty to animals.
I think you're exactly right. I can tell you, I can't speak for the Humane Society. I can speak for Heartland Cat Rescue. I know somebody who's very much involved in that, so I'm also involved in it. But when you adopt a cat from Heartland Cat Rescue, part of the deal is they can come and visit that cat whenever they want to make sure that everything is all right. That we've seen the horrible cases where there've been people who want to try to save these animals but are uniquely incapable of them. They find 25 cats in a house, 25 dogs in a house in squalid conditions, and they have to bring them out, nurse some back to health. Some are just going to be gone. But I can tell you the Heartland Cat Rescue does that kind of thing. But I think a registry like that, like a sex offender registry, would be a very good thing because it's very. I think it's. I can't use a good word. I think that it's a horrible thing for that to occur, and those people need to be held accountable at some level. Absolutely, because they. You have a question? Okay, so yeah, I think you're right about that, and we can bring that up to the powers that be, and we can bring that up to them. But those are 3 people that I would like to have come and speak here at the Highlands Tea Party. 3 different organizations, because I think there are people that want to know about trash, about gas, and about. We have a question. So go ahead. Yes, sir.
Jim from Avon Park.
Hey, Jim.
On the recycling, that has all changed. Now you can put tin cans, plastic bottles, all paper goods except corrugated cardboard in the same bin.
Okay.
I don't know what that has to do with
it. But then they're used to that. That's the way it was, and they sorted them out, and they had a sorting station at the landfill. And there were charges at the time that the sheriff, which was not Paul Blackman, I might point out, but the sheriff at the time was arresting people so that they had a slave workforce to go out and sort this trash, to sort it out, and that's back when China was recycling some goods.
I think also, not trying to argue on this point, but I think it's the Chipper, Skipper recycling center for
Right.
batteries and paint and all of that. That's opening on September the 1st.
Oh, the hazardous, yeah, there's a hazardous waste collection twice a year.
No, it's opening now
Oh, okay.
on September 1st, and it's open 5 days a week.
Is that where you can take paint and
Yes, exactly.
old batteries,
Electronics,
that
yes.
kind of thing? Okay, good. Yeah.
So it's not once a year, but they're 5 days a week.
They can do it
Is
5
my
days a week.
understanding.
Skipper Road.
It's on Skipper Road down
Skipper
there
Road.
at the old landfill. And twice a year they have one omnibus collection where they invite people to come in, just bring it in their cars, and they'll unload it for you and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, you can take it down there. And I think there are 3 recycling locations in Highlands County, one in Avon Park, one in Sebring, one in Lake Placid. They are open on alternating days. I don't have a schedule for that. If you call the county and say when and where is mine in Avon Park, Sebring, or Lake Placid, you can find out, and you can drop stuff off at the recycling centers there, rather than having the roadside pickup, which they don't have the roadside pickup anymore.
I have a question, and that is, how do you get rid of old medicine?
They have at least once a year a medicine pickup. But if you call the Highlands County Sheriff's Office, which is 402-7200, and you ask for Scott Dressel, they can tell you where they drop that off. They have had because they don't want people flushing their medicines down the toilet because it pollutes the groundwater. Yes, ma'am.
Sandra again from Sebring. For your medicines that you're not taking anymore, unused, as long as they're not liquid, you can go down to the police department in Sebring. They have a big old-fashioned mailbox in their lobby, and you can throw the bottles in there. I would recommend that you don't take the pills out of the bottles. I mark out our name and the prescription number and the doctor's name, but then I throw them in so they know what they are if they need to know what they are. But you can take them there anytime the police station is open. You can take them there. And one thing about the recycling with paper, when you get envelopes in the mail and there's a plastic window in that paper, you need to take that plastic window out and throw it in your garbage. Only the paper envelope is recyclable.
That's right. That is correct. I didn't think about that. Thank you very much.
I have a major problem because when I had my kidney stone,
Yeah.
right, the doctor prescribed 4 quarts of a thing to allow me to have a certain movement.
Yeah. Okay.
And I still have the 4 bottles left, 4 quarts of it. So if anybody needs 4 quarts of a laxative, just let me know. All right?
John's your guy. Yeah. Thank you, John.
Well, that's the truth.
I
It's the truth.
learn new things about you every day.
I can bring it and show it to you.
Well, I appreciate that so much. We have really not dealt with a lot of Highlands County stuff. John and I usually talk about stuff on the federal level, but there are a couple of things that are underway that I did want to talk about. One is that there was another move by a local a municipality to do away with their police department. Avon Park was first, happened about 12, 15 years ago. Now Lake Placid talked about the idea of disbanding their police department and taking over the sheriff's office, taking the sheriff's office as their unit. I understand that went down, that the Lake Placid Police Department is going to continue to be the way it is. I know that the city of Avon Park has done it. I know the city of Frostproof has done it. And they make a contract with the sheriff's office to be their law enforcement division. So, but there was a move by Lake Placid, but I understand that I don't know what the vote was, but I do know it was voted down.
Well, I would think they'd want to keep with the local police force if they could do it financially. That may be the problem, is financially, and so on. Because now you've got sheriff's people who normally wouldn't be concerned about the inner city problems or issues if they had a police force, and if they don't, now the sheriff has to step in.
Well, what happens is basically, as far as law enforcement's concerned, the city no longer exists. That they do the same kind of enforcement that they would do in the unincorporated areas of the county. If there's a neighborhood dispute, for instance, and they respond to it, they would respond to it in downtown Avon Park the same way they'd respond to it at Sun Lake or Leisure Lakes or out in Loretta, wherever it was occurring. They would respond in the same way. In the past, municipalities were sovereign entities, and their police departments usually had a what they call an interlocal agreement that the sheriff's office could ply their trade inside the city limits just as well as they could outside the city limits, because they would have issues where someone had committed a crime inside the city and was running and went across the municipal line and went out into the county. And when they went out into the county, the Sebring Police Department has no jurisdiction in the county. While the sheriff's office said, "Oh yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. If you chase him 2 blocks outside the city limits and arrest him, well, you can still arrest him." So that's kind of the way that it works. But they would have a much more intensive response because the Lake Placid Police Department, as you say, would respond to things inside the Caladium capital, and if they go away, then the sheriff's office would be responsible for all the calls.
Well, I think after Avon Park took a look at that, I wonder if it was not a money situation, cheaper for them to pay the sheriff's department than it was to incorporate and start up their own police department again.
Oh yeah, when they disbanded the police department, they were told, they said there was no way you'll ever stand up a police department again. It's just too expensive to stand up a police office. And the sheriff did come in several years ago to Avon Park and tell them that if they wanted him to continue, they were going to have to pay significantly more money,
right, because
of the numbers and kinds of incidents they had to respond to. That they had, there were shooting, stabbings, assaults. There were all kinds of things that required many deputies to show up, and it required investigation. When you have a fatality, there's a lot of investigation that goes into it. And for a time, it looked like Avon Park might not have any real law enforcement coverage. And they finally came to an arrangement with the sheriff's office. But they're paying, I don't know if they're paying more than they would have had with the police department, but they're paying more than they did at the onset. At the onset, it was a savings, but that savings has now gone away.
Right. And I think that was one of the things I think they really took a look at, because most communities today, everything comes down to the bottom line. Can you afford it or cannot afford it? If you can't afford it, then you have to revert back to the sheriff's department and let them do the patrolling for you.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know whether their crime rate has been better or worse since the sheriff took over policing Avon Park.
It's hard to tell because the universal crime report is interesting because the way that you report crimes shows different kinds of things. I mean, and we've just seen this. We've just seen this with Washington, D.C., where Washington, D.C., the numbers were not accurate.
Fudged.
Yeah, that's one word. There's a lot of other words too. But these numbers, they would report if you had a stabbing, it was reported as an aggravated assault because the universal crime statistics didn't report aggravated assaults, but they did report stabbings. And apparently, the mayor of New York had said that, our numbers are going down, but now the head of the D.C. police union said, well, that's not exactly true.
Well, she also said when asked her now with the new patrol that's coming into D.C., the National Guard and FBI agents, who's in command? And the police chief answered with, what does that mean?
The chain of command.
That's scary.
They don't know what the chain.
That's
they didn't
scary.
know what the
That's
chain
scary.
of command was. And I think that Donald Trump, one of the things that some of us like is that Mr. Trump doesn't gloss things over very well. He pretty much says what he thinks, and he was talking to a press conference, and he goes, you know, when you go to a restaurant and the front door is dirty, you don't go in because you know the kitchen's dirty too. Okay, and here in America, here in the United States, our front door is dirty. He says, and it makes the whole country look dirty. And so, and John and I had this discussion, I think today on the podcast, today talking about the fact that we have people coming to Washington, D.C. from all over the world to see the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial and the reflecting pool and the White House. By the way, the tours, anybody who's going to go to the White House for a tour, they've been suspended while they build a new ballroom, which, by the way, is being done with private sector funds.
Right.
Just saying. And because the crime is so bad and because the streets look so bad, Donald Trump has said, no, we're going to fix that. And I think the first troops arrived Tuesday. The first troops, we saw pictures of the first troops arriving Tuesday because it's going to go back. I think the first thing is they're going to clean up the really public areas, the touristy areas, but they're going to push back into the neighborhood. Because you went, 40 years ago into
It's horrible.
a place with the military,
It was horrible.
and you were afraid to go. He was with the military, and they didn't want to go in there.
No, did not know. And what's concerning though, the president can only put the National Guard in there for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has to get a vote of Congress in order to continue to pass that. If he doesn't get a vote from Congress and he can only be in there for 30 days, and then they walk away, what's going to happen? Is it going to go right back to where it is today, or is it going to be any better? I mean, that's my concern.
Yeah.
And I don't trust Congress to give an approval go past 30 days. I don't.
Because Washington, D.C. is not a city like a normal city. Orlando's not a city like a normal city. Well, people come to Orlando to go to Disney World, to go to Universal Studios, to go to different events in Orlando. They come, they eat, they leave. It's not a city that has a bunch of industry there where people who are working in the industry stay there. It's a tourist town. Washington is a political town where the politicians come. They have their legislative sessions. They leave. They have the tourists that come. They don't have the same kind of population. So I don't know if that will be the case where people will finally say, yeah, it's getting better. We want it to stay better.
Well, it was funny listening to the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser. She was really trying to play both sides of the fence. On one side, she said, well, we really can use the help, but then we really don't want them here. So, I mean, she was trying to really play both sides of the fence on this, bringing in the troops and bringing in the FBI and so on. But, I mean, any rational person would have to take a look. Washington, D.C. has 41 murders per 100,000. It's the highest rate in the world when it comes to capital cities.
In the world.
More than Cuba, more than any South American, more than any, even in Africa. Even in Africa, the crime rate for the capital city of D.C. is 41 per 100,000 people, which is higher than any place else. And you're talking, a lot of these countries are like less than 5. I mean, less than 5 per 100,000 people. So Washington has a serious, serious problem. And I hope that this gets their hands around it. The other thing I think that the president talked about, and I believe it's right, and we've got it all over the country, and that is homelessness. And people sleeping and staying on the street and doing everything else on the street. Somehow, to me, when I grew up, the town I lived in had a large mental hospital. And when people were mentally ill, that's where they put them. But then everybody got on board this, oh no, we can't do that. We can't castigate people that are mentally ill. So let's put them out on the street. And we see what that's got us. It's got us crime and people that have no control over themselves. They either get on drugs or they're alcoholics or both. And then there's just no way. And what they do in order to get their drug money or their alcohol money or whatever, they commit crime. And some of the crime they commit is just absolutely horrible crime that no sensible person would not think of doing. And so I think that homelessness is going to be a serious problem. The other thing that the president said, I think yesterday, and that is, I've got 5 more cities on my chalkboard that I want to go after next. So I don't think he's done with D.C. That's not going to be the end of it. I think he's going to go look at Chicago, L.A., New York City, and so on. So I think there's more of this to come, and it's going to be ongoing. It'll be interesting to see how the politicians, especially the Democrat politicians, are going to react to this.
Well, I might point out that this is not the first time that this has happened. Some of us may remember when Barack Hussein Obama federalized the police department in Cleveland, Ohio. So it has happened. It has happened under other administrations. So I would ask you if some of your friends come and think that this is some kind of fascist government takeover, you might point out that this has happened before under Barack Hussein O, and that you could ask them, well, what did you think about that? And they will probably not even know. They will probably not. And it was portrayed at the time as a good thing. Highlands County, the city of Sebring, a lot of sheriff's offices and police departments got surplus military goods for use in law enforcement under during the Obama administration, and there were people who thought that they were ramping them up for a reason, that they were militarizing the police for a reason, and crime was not, by the way, held out as one of the reasons that was it. They was just to make it easier for them to do their job.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things, we really have to feel lucky here in the state of Florida where we live. I mean, we're lucky. Our crime rate here, yes, there's crime, no doubt about it. Even in Highlands County, there's crime. But when you look at the magnitude of crime in some of these other cities around the country, the murder rate, the crime rate, it's just off the chart. So I feel very lucky and feel very safe living here.
Yes.
Compared to if I lived somewhere else, I couldn't say the same thing. I just couldn't. There's no way.
I couldn't go back. I used to live in a big city. I couldn't go back to living in a big, especially now. And here in Florida, we have law enforcement agencies that don't put up with much. One of the favorite news stories that I did was these guys that had committed a crime in Osceola County and were on I-4 trying to escape the police. And they finally got pulled over. And they couldn't figure out why they were being pulled over by Polk County Sheriff's deputies. And they said, because you're in Polk County. And one of the young men said, Grady Judd territory? Oh, no. So yes, we have law enforcement, and there's Wayne Ivey, another sheriff who doesn't put up with much guff, and so we have that here. So John, you're right. We're very, very fortunate to have this here. We would like to see Florida lead the country in.
Well, I think they're doing a good job of it. I mean,
you steal $900 worth of merchandise here, you're going to be in jail for a while.
You're going to be in jail.
They're not going to let you go like they do in San Francisco.
Right, absolutely, and so on. So I think we're lucky in the fact that we have sheriffs here that are empowered, and they're almost always backed by the local politicians, if you will. And I think they know that the crime rate is what people look at. How safe do you feel when you go home? How safe do you feel walking the street? How safe do you feel? Do you leave your door unlocked? Some people might, some people might not. But I mean, those are the things that you can even consider living here. If you live in these other cities, the blue cities around the country, I'm sorry to say, they're just off the chart. Most of them, I was listening to one of the police officials in D.C. today, not the police chief, if you will. They are 800 policemen short of what they're supposed to have in D.C. Yes. New York is like a couple thousand people short on their police force. So as big as they are, thousands of people, they're still short of manpower. They can't get it. And I think it's the police there are so overwhelmed, they can do their job to find the bad guys, arrest the bad guys, but then they walk through one door and walk out the other door. And the criminal justice system just does them no favors.
By the way, I did find out one thing you all might want to be interested in. They have lifted the age restrictions on becoming an ICE agent. So if any of you guys are looking for a side gig, 70, 80, they don't care. Okay, you can apply today.
That's right.
So
they might even have a place for me.
I'm ready. But the one thing that I do want to point out is that things are going well now, but we are just staring down the barrel of the midterm elections. And if the Trump support does not continue into the next 2 years, all that's happened so far will just come to a screeching halt. And so it's going to be up to us and up to our friends and neighbors. A lot of us have friends, and we're going to be talking about this as our friends from the great industrialized north come down to escape the winter. Um, it's going to be time for us to make sure, and with the redistricting that may happen, in fact, there may be more seats of people who would support the president and what he's doing, and to help elect another president who's very much in the same vein as the one we have now. But this is not a time to sit back and relax and say, oh, thank God, Trump's in. Oh, we got nothing to worry about. No, there's blood in the water. It's time to go. It's time to move. And you have a president who will back us and who will move forward with the idea of the constitutional republic. And it's going to be up to us to begin to make calls, write letters, talk to our friends and neighbors, and do that kind of thing to keep things moving forward.
Well, just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that happens around the country, in the state of Massachusetts, where I managed to live for 17 years, but the governor up there has spent so much money on illegals. The public defenders up there went to court because they wanted a pay increase. They didn't get their pay increase, so now they've all quit. They've just walked away. So there are 2,000 criminals in the state of Massachusetts. You only can hold a bad guy for 7 days. If you don't charge him, and without a lawyer, they can't be charged. So after 7 days, they have to let him go. So there's 2,000 bad guys that are going to be letting go because they don't have public defenders up there to defend the bad guys. So this is how crazy things can get around the country. And like I said earlier, we're lucky in the fact that I think we have a semblance of law and order through the whole system pretty much in the state. And a lot of places do not have that. They don't.
No. So, well, I think that's about it for the time, John. I think we're about done.
Amazing.
So we appreciate you all showing up tonight for this,
Awesome.
and we appreciate all the questions.
Amen.
And
Amen.
and if you would like to hear this kind of thing on a regular basis, if you have any kind of experience with the internet, you can go to YouTube, and they have the little search, the little magnifying glass, and you type in The Barry Foster Show, and you have your choice of around 74, 75 episodes, and we try to put a little explanation. There's myself and John. We've had guests. I just had Kaylee Tuck on for the second time talking about what happened in the last session, and especially what happened with the budget, and what's happening now, what's going to happen in the next session. I'm going to be talking with Aaron Grawl, going to try to get our state senator to talk about what happened in the Florida Senate. We have one called Business and Consumer Update that will help you with a number of issues, including tort reform. We do a Florida Fun Travel, my wife and I, everything from our trip down to Vero Beach to a new place up in Lake Hamilton called Port 27. Tom Trento, I have a wonderful interview with him that's going to be going up Thursday, I believe. So you can have a chance to watch that. And when you ask you to subscribe, there's this little subscribe button. If you hit that little subscribe button, then you'll subscribe, and that'll help us move forward. And our goal, by the way, is episode 100. We're going to try to do a live episode like we used to do on the radio. I've just got some new equipment that I'm going to try. I thought I had it. I have a little thing I have to do to hook the phone up, and I thought I had it fixed, but it's not fixed. But maybe it'll be fixed now. Keep me in your prayers when it comes to electronic issues, because this is where Satan lives. Okay. So you want to say something?
Just had one last announcement to everyone. Love you. And listen, if you subscribe, you need to hit the subscribe button, because then every time Barry has a show, it will automatically come to your YouTube feed. You won't have to look for his show.
Is that
And
right?
it'll also help the YouTube algorithms. That's the Satan part you're
That's
talking
right.
about.
Yes.
It'll make the YouTube algorithm send it to more people. Like all of your friends, they'll somehow see it on their feed.
Well,
So you're helping him if you subscribe.
and I forgot to do something in the middle of the program. I was going to do this
Yeah.
because the train comes through every time we're on the air. But it's nice people say, and we have trucks that go by. We're in the Ridge Floor Studios in Avon Park. It's a lot of fun, and so I had to sit me the whole time. We got too serious. So as we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, this is Barry Foster with John Larsen, and we'll see you next time.